is also a teen mom who chose adoption and then had that open adoption closed on them, all of your little think pieces on Catelynn and Tyler's situation right now are really pissing me off. So allow me to offer you a different perspective. Statistically speaking, most open adoptions end up closed, and this is because of the emotions of the adoptive parents, not because of something that the biological parents did. The adoptive mother of my son literally told me that when I contacted her for updates, it made her feel like they weren't a real family. Leading up to this, I never contacted them too much. I never crossed any boundaries. I respected all of their wishes. I saw my son for our annual visits, and I occasionally would contact them for updates. And I chose these parents for my child because they had already adopted another child years before this, and I did not foresee this being an issue. But unfortunately, I learned that it is a very common issue. I've seen a lot of people saying, well, maybe if Catelynn and Tyler gave them more space, then things would get better. I have watched them for over a decade give Brandon and Teresa their space and respect their wishes. And Brandon and Teresa have slowly distanced themselves more and more every year. Teenagers go into these situations with a plan and an agreement, but unfortunately, they are also signing their rights away. So if the adoptive parents choose to change that agreement at any time, there's really nothing that we can do about it. And I've seen a lot of people speculating that maybe it's Carly who doesn't want to have the relationship with Catelynn and Tyler. Number one, I highly doubt that's the case, but if it is, Brandon and Teresa are failing to communicate this, and they are leaving Catelynn and Tyler in the dark. Don't you think if they communicated this, that Catelynn and Tyler would respect Carly's wishes, because they love Carly and they want what's best for her? And I've seen a lot of people saying, well, maybe if they didn't air out all this information on social media, things would get better for them. I'm sorry, but from my perspective, what I see is the adoptive parents cut them off, and they are doing anything and everything in their power to make sure that Carly knows that they love her and they want to be in her life, because they have been left in the dark. Speaking of making things public, it's interesting that Brandon and Teresa have always talked about how they wanted more privacy, yet they went on the Dr. Phil show to talk about their adoption and allowed themselves to be on the cover of a magazine. They had no problem taking advantage of Catelynn and Tyler's fame when it benefited them. Brandon and Teresa also made the decision to allow Catelynn and Tyler to introduce their other children to Carly. So now there are other children involved, and this doesn't just affect Carly. Imagine what a slap in the face it must be to have Brandon and Teresa pretend to care about you, leave you in the dark in so many different situations, constantly respecting their wishes, and still get cut off like this. We also know that Catelynn has struggled with mental health issues in the past, and she has fought very hard to overcome those and be the best parent that she can be. But imagine what a slap in the face it is to come online and see everybody speculating about the most painful experience of her life. So while you're all making accusations about how this is Catelynn and Tyler's fault, all I see are two parents who have been making all of the right decisions for their children since day one, even when it was incredibly difficult for them to do. They have followed all of the rules. They've done what they're supposed to do. They have never tried to take Carly back from Brandon and Teresa. They simply want what they agreed upon. And Catelynn and Tyler, if you're seeing this, ignore these trolls, because they have no idea what you've been through and what you've overcome and how difficult all of this has been for you. I have watched you from day one make all of the right decisions for your children, even when it was incredibly difficult to do, and even when you had your own parents trying to convince you to make the wrong choice. I've watched you fight to grow and be the best versions of yourselves that you can be. I have watched you put your children first constantly. So ignore these trolls and keep doing you.